My company is called Less Oil. We're fuel waste and energy conservation experts. What we do is we go into buildings and we figure out ways for the building to use less energy, still provide heat to the tenants, and make it so that people are still comfortable and you're not getting complaints, but you're using less energy. I'm 35 years, even though I don't look it, I'm 35 years in the heating business. I'm certified multifamily building analyst. I'm green building certified. I invented a device called the low fire interlock. I'm an instructor with 32 BJ Building Services Union. My company is Con Ed, National Grid certified. And we're sponsors of the Association of Energy Engineers New York chapter. The reason I bring all that stuff up is because we do many different things that are involved in heating business, the heating and functioning of heating equipment in buildings. We're not just focused on one thing like plumbing or boilers or oil burners or gas burners. We kind of take a holistic approach and look at the entire building. I'm going to let you in on some top secret information regarding heating equipment that not a lot of people are aware of. How can I tell if my building is wasting heating fuel? I get that question all the time. If you buy a car, the manufacturer has a rating. It's the miles per gallon rating of your car. Your building doesn't have any miles per gallon rating. So you have to know what a building should use, how much energy a building should use. The rule of thumb is 0.35 gallons or therms per square foot of the building. If your building is using more than that, then you have an opportunity in your building to reduce the amount of energy that's being used and still provide good hot water and still provide good heat to your tenants. So, how much oil should I be using if my building is 20,000 square feet? The answer is 20,000 times 0.35, 7,000 gallons. If you're using more than 7,000 gallons or 7,000 therms to heat your building, then you're wasting energy. It can be made to operate more efficient. The highest fuel use that I've ever had to date was 1.4 gallons per square foot. That's 4 times the target. So what you want to do is you want to first look at your building. You want to look at how much energy that you're using. You want to use this as a barometer, and then a light should go off. Hey, if I'm using 2 or 3 times the amount of heat that or fuel that I should be using, it's time to do something about conserving energy in the building. One of the questions I get asked all the time is it better to heat with oil or gas? A lot of people think oil is more powerful than gas and it heats the building faster. That's false. Both fuels are equal. When you buy fuel from a fuel supplier or your oil guy or your gas company, what you're doing is you're buying units of energy known as BTUs. A BTU that is for oil or a BTU that is for gas is exactly the same thing. One is not more powerful than the other. The difference is the cost of the commodity. 2 years ago, oil was significantly higher than gas. Now they're pretty much the same price. Is replacing your boiler or converting to gas going to save energy? False. Neither one of them will save energy. It might, if you replace your boiler and there wasn't anything wrong with it, you're not going to save any money. You'll just have a new boiler. If you switch to gas, you'll use, a lot of my customers come to me and they say, Mike, I switched to gas and I'm using the same amount of energy that I was using last year, but now I'm using it in gas. That's because the fuel is not the problem. The problem is the heating equipment, how it's being maintained, how you're controlling the temperature in the building. That's what saves energy. The most convenient way to heat your building is natural gas. That is true. You don't have any oil tanks, you don't have any oil leaks, you don't have to worry about inaccurate deliveries. So gas is a good bet from that standpoint. Here are some important temperatures to remember. 1200 degrees Fahrenheit, 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Why are those things important? Because that's how your boiler operates. Boiler, this is a cutaway view of a typical steam boiler. If you look at, this is our burner, this is a cutaway view of the boiler. Where the combustion takes place, or where the air and oil or air and gas come together, is called a combustion chamber. The temperature of that when it's burning is 1200 degrees. This 1200 degree gas goes into the combustion chamber, turns around, and it's giving up heat. The flame, that 1200 degree temperature, is giving up heat to the water. This blue part here is the water. So a boiler is really nothing more than a big can of water that you put a fire into. And how efficient it operates depends on how much the temperature is, how much that temperature of that fire here goes into the water. So we go, and in our combustion chamber, this is what's called a three-pass boiler. The combustion gases go through the combustion chamber, that's one pass. They go through the tubes again, that's another pass, and they go through the third pass and come out the chimney. Believe it or not, an efficiently operating boiler that's working at the way that it was designed from the manufacturer is going to have an exhaust gas temperature of 400 degrees at the chimney. So you start out at 1200, you're giving up heat to the water, you're making the turn at the front of the boiler, it's about 700 degrees, and when you come out here it's 400, and when you make, and steam is made at 212 degrees. That's a perfectly operating boiler, operating the way that it was designed to from the manufacturer. The single best $98 that you can ever spend for your heating boiler is to go to McMaster Car, which is simply a hardware supply company that supplies hardware online, and buy a stack thermometer. That's a stack thermometer. It measures the temperature of the gases. You have your superintendent or a handyman mounted to the stack on the outside of the boiler. It costs about 83 bucks, and then there's a mounting flange for it. You mount this to the chimney or the stack of the boiler, and if your boiler, if your temperature is higher than 400 degrees, that's an indication that the boiler is not operating as efficiently as it possibly could. I've seen boilers where the temperature coming out of the stack is 900 and 1,000 degrees. What does that mean? What does that mean when that temperature is so high? That means that the heat from, oh, you were going to answer? Waste, that's energy waste. That's 900 degrees or 800 degrees going up the stack. Why is that happening? If the boiler is dirty, you have to have your boiler cleaned on a regular basis. If the boiler is dirty, it's going to impede the transfer of this temperature from the fire to the water. So when that happens, the temperature of the stack goes up. So if you invest $83. So if you bet, $98. If you invest $98, you'll know when your boiler is operating efficiently and when it's not operating efficiently. And then when it's time to call in to have the boiler cleaned. Everybody follow?
Does it have an alarm on it?
No, but it does have an indicator. This particular one has an indicator that is set to 400 degrees, and then when it reaches that temperature, it will give you an indication on there. But it's something that you should check periodically. So your superintendent or whoever's doing the maintenance on your heating equipment should check it periodically. And when it is above 400 degrees, it's time to clean the boiler. Okay, this is a combustion efficiency tester. This is a device that's used by service technicians to measure the efficiency of your boiler. Okay, in addition, it's installed in the stack at the back of the boiler, and it measures the air-fuel ratio of the fire. How much air and how much fuel are mixing together so that you get the maximum amount of heat or the maximum amount of BTUs from the fuel that you're burning. It's important to use a combustion efficiency tester because otherwise you can't tell. When I went to school, back when I had a full head of hair and I was down to about here and I went to school for heating, to learn heating and air conditioning, they told us all you had to do was adjust by the color of the fire. So I'm going to show you this is a gas burner. It operates exactly the same way as a gas burner operates in your building. There's a certain amount of air that's determined by the manufacturer that comes in the back over here. It mixes with the gas and makes a fire. When I pull this, it makes an ignition and it makes a fire. So now I'm going to cut off a percentage. This is a perfect fire made the way the manufacturer designed it. I'm going to cut off about 25% of the air going through that and change the air-fuel ratio. Now look what happens. The flame is still blue. So if your technician comes into your building and he adjusts your fire by the color of it and says, hey, I got a blue fire, I don't need one of these things. I used to hear it all the time. This thing's a bunch of baloney, you don't need it. I've been doing this for 25 years, I can adjust any burner by the color of the fire. Here's a perfect fire. Here's a fire with 25% less air than it should have. This is inefficient, that's perfectly efficient. You'd never know by the color of the fire. So it's very important. When a technician comes into your building and he says, well, we adjusted the fire. Well, did you use a combustion efficiency tester? Can you give me the results of that tester? This device here has an option on it where it will give you a readout of what the efficiency of the fire is. You should ask for that from your technician or the people that are working on your heating equipment. Because it's very important. Having a correct air-fuel ratio, keeping the boiler clean, you're talking about 5%, 7%, 10% that it can affect the amount of fuel that you're using in the building. I get this question all the time from property owners that have steam boilers. How much steam pressure is enough? There's a lot of rules of thumb that are in the field relating to how much steam pressure is enough for a building. Some people say 5 pounds, some people say 10 pounds, some people say 2 pounds. Fact of the matter is that steam is lighter than air. So, if I had a helium balloon in my head and I wanted the helium to go to the top floor of a 10-floor building, a 10-story building, all I have to do is let go, and it'll go up by itself. Steam is lighter than air, just like helium. It does not require any pressure to push it through the building. So, the correct amount of steam pressure... I'm sorry, did somebody have a question?
Water goes through our heating pipes. Is that the same as steam?
It's different. It's different. But that requires, the water type heat requires a certain amount of pressure to actually push it up. Steam is lighter than air. It does not require any pressure. Okay, a typical steam heating system, steam is lighter than air, so it flows through the pipes all by itself. It doesn't require any pressure to push it through. As a matter of fact, the Empire State Building is heated with low-pressure steam at 2 pounds pressure. So there's no pressure that's actually really required to push that steam through the Empire State Building. Longer and fewer running cycles are always better than short and frequent running cycles. You want to have low pressure, you want to operate your boiler at low pressure, it'll operate much more efficiently at low pressure. Insulation. Now, whether you have hydronic heat or whether you have steam heat, depending on, it doesn't matter. the important thing is you want to insulate the pipes, you want to insulate the boiler, so that heat that is currently dissipating from these pipes because they weren't insulated. These pipes are well insulated and this boiler is insulated. When a boiler isn't insulated properly, you go into the boiler room, you got to take your jacket off because it's so hot in there. That's a sign of energy waste. You want to insulate boilers, you want to insulate steam pipes. Again, just the boiler alone, sitting in the boiler room, will waste between 3 and 5% of the annual fuel that it uses because it's not insulated properly. If you insulate the boiler well, and you insulate the pipes that are attached to it very well, you're going to save 3 to 5%. So if you look at before, combustion efficiency, 5 to 7%, 3 to 5%. Before you know it, you're in a category where you're starting to save some real money in your building. And that's what we talk about, and that's what we do at Gus Oil, is figure out ways to use your existing heating equipment and make it operate more energy efficiently. This is just a picture of a different style boiler where all the pipes are insulated. Everything should be insulated. The boiler, the hot water pipes, the recirculation lines on the boiler. We say if it's hot when you touch, it costs too much. Put insulation on anything that gets hot in your boiler room. Now, who's in charge and who actually controls the boiler in your building? This is Miss Gregoretti. She's in apartment 3G. She has 311 on speed dial. Personally responsible for 23% of all of the no heat complaints at HPD. Convinced that anything below 78 degrees is freezing, and radiators must be hot 24 hours, 7 days a week. That's a picture of my mother-in-law, by the way, isn't it? So who can ask her anything? Look. When my wife saw him, anyway, so who's controlling the boiler? You got to take control of your boiler. And the way you do that is to deal with somebody like this. The way you deal with that is you spend a little money and you buy some other things that will help you know when it's hot or cold or the right temperature in your building. You spend a little money and you buy this thing here. This is called a pocket thermometer. Again, you can buy that at McMaster-Carr. I have no interest in McMaster-Carr, but they happen to have everything that you need. You spend $15 to $20. Your superintendent goes, you're getting a complaint from your complaining tenant. You go into their apartment, show them what the temperature is. If they don't believe you, this is another type of temperature measuring device. This has a little bit of a screen on it. Whatever you point to that, it'll tell you what the temperature of that thing is. Additionally, what we found is that somebody that is informed, a tenant that is informed, is a tenant that understands. These thermometers here, I put them on the table for you. These are free from Less Oil. If you sign up to our quarterly newsletter, take that. If you sign up for our quarterly newsletter, if you can just pass this around, I'll be happy to send you as many of those thermometers as you like. Give them out to your tenants. This way your tenants will know what the temperature is in their apartment. In my home, sometimes I'm sitting in the living room and I'm looking at the, I feel a little chilly. It's a little chilly. Maybe something's not right. I go over, I look at the thermostat. The thermostat says that it's 71 degrees. Maybe I'm not so chilly. Temperature, how you feel in different temperatures has a lot to do with how you feel, what the relative humidity is in the room, and it's important to know what it is, so psychologically you feel better. It's important that the tenants know, and that they know that you're not trying to screw them, and that you're not trying to keep the apartment too cold. This device here is a little more high-tech. It's called a temperature data logger. You can buy this for under $100. It plugs right into your computer. You take it, you set it down in an apartment, and it'll read temperatures every 5 minutes, 24 hours a day, for 22 days. So if you have a tenant that's habitually complaining, you put this thing in their apartment, you leave it there. I usually put 2. I take one, I put it on the living room table, and I take another one, and I put it on top of a cabinet where no one can see it. This way, I have something to do to compare. Well, a lot of times people take these things, they put them in the refrigerator, they think that's going to, that you're not going to notice a drop in temperature from 72 down to 40. But this is what this does too, is this lets you know if there's a problem. If there really is a problem in a tenant's apartment and it gets too cold, you want to know what that it is, and you want to know how you can fix it. Heating control devices have jumped in quantum leaps over the last 10 years as far as how they actually operate and control heating equipment. This is a readout from a heating computer, fairly simple device. And look, the way this is, what this is telling us here is it's telling us the temperature of the hot water, the temperature of the apartments in the building, the temperature of the outside air, and how many times a day this heating system is coming on over a 24-hour period. When we first put this unit into the building, the boiler was going on and off 50 times in a 24-hour period. That's way too many times for it to go on and off. I've been in buildings where it's going on and off 150 times in a 24-hour period. Unless you're monitoring it, there's no way that you're going to know that that's happening. After we put the control in and made our adjustments, the boiler only went on and off 14 times in a 24-hour period. Am I going over too much?
We need to wrap it up, yes, please, if that's okay.
Okay, so set up a flag, and because I could throw stuff around. Okay, I'll wrap it up short.
All right.
Steam hammer. If your pipes are banging, that's your heating system yelling at you. Fix me, something's wrong. Balance. Heating equipment balance. You want to make sure that all the apartments are the same temperature. There's ways to do that. There's you do a balance report in your building, and you can get all the apartments to be approximately the same temperature. Reduction of fuel waste is the single least cost and has the quickest return on investment of any energy conservation measure. This thing here is the latest thing in controlling heat in buildings. It's an automatic temperature-controlled radiator cover. This thing is so advanced, it measures the temperature of every radiator in your entire building, sends a signal down to a computer inside the building, and regulates the temperature in the entire building. It's web-based. You get much more accurate control of the temperature in the building, and it compensates for the fact when the building has sun on one side of it and shaded on the other. Now's the time to make improvements. We have mild weather and low fuel prices. Energy conservation saves money, helps global warming, carbon emissions. Whether you agree with Donald Trump or not that there is global warming, it helps with carbon emission and health issues. And this is the end. This is my last slide. My company offers a free survey for anyone that responds or asks for it. We will come to your building, provide a written report, do an evaluation in comparison to other buildings, evaluate your control system, evaluate insulation, energy savings opportunities, and whether or not gas conversion is an option. That's my name, that's the phone number.
Good, Mike.
That's it.